my mom was a teen mom, had me at 16. And from a very early age, when my body started to make changes and stuff like that, my mom kept a very embedded, like uncomfortable almost, like conversations about birth control, sex, condoms, the consequences of sex, STDs. I knew that even if I felt uncomfortable, I could still go to my mother and tell her. My mom I came to my mom when I became sexually active. I was terrified out of my mind. And I feel like having that growing up is why I made the choices that I made and had the standards that I had, and why things went so successfully for me as far as like,
I just wanted to push back a little bit on something that Lady T said in regards like don't trust your, if you can't trust a person with your heart, then you shouldn't trust them with, your sex basically. Although I understand where that's coming from, but I also think that especially when you're younger, you can't trust your heart. You know what I'm saying? Because just in terms of that developmental stage, like a lot of the young girls are getting pregnant because they're trusting their heart. Like when you're young and you're immature, you're thinking that you're going to be in love with this person forever. You guys are going to get married. You're going to do all of these things. So you're trusting your heart in the fact that, you know,
You're
that you're going to build this life together, and then the reality of it is that 9 times out of 10, depending on how young you are, that's not going to be the reality. And so that's why I say the bigger conversation is it should always start around making sure that you love yourself enough to protect yourself, so things wouldn't, so stuff wouldn't happen. That's my only thing, because I know I was in love, you know what I'm saying? And the person that I thought I was gonna marry, because I was engaged twice too, engaged twice, married once. I was engaged at 18. You know what I'm saying? No. You know
right.
what I'm saying? So that's why I'm saying, in terms of trusting your heart, you just really need to just be smart about, having those conversations about sex and making sure that you protect yourself, and if the person that you care about is going to make sure that he protects you or she protects you as well.
Yeah.
I
Well, what
also
I said, I'm sorry. What I said was not sex, not um. If you can't trust them with your heart, don't trust them with your sex. I said if you can't trust them with your heart, don't trust them with your
With your
body.
body.
Right. And I agree with what you're saying, because when we are younger, we tend to be um very a lot more naive and optimistic, because
Hmm.
we're not tainted and jaded. But when we're younger, we also think that we know ourselves well enough to not tolerate some of the shit that we end up tolerating, I think, as adults until we know better. I mean, like some of the things that we end up tolerating as adults, I think, are like, I don't even know how to go. But I know when I was younger and I was dating, like with my high school sweetheart, like I loved him. Like you can tell me I didn't love that boy. Like you can tell me that, right? But there were still things that he was doing that I was way quicker to check as a teenager than myself in my adult years, because I was younger and reckless. And I'm like, no, you're not going to play me. You know what I mean? Whereas if you're an adult now, you kind of overthink and you're a bit more apprehensive, because it's kind of like choose your battles. You don't want to have these kind of conversations. You don't want to seem rambunctious. You don't want to bump heads. Like, so I get what you're saying, but it was, I just wanted to clarify that I meant body.
Well,
Like,
when you said body, I equated that to sex. Like when
well,
you said,
yeah.
I was more
so
so speaking about our womb space. And then
okay.
that's why I spoke about like giving birth, risking your life, that sort of thing. But yeah, I do understand what you mean. And I'm sorry, I
Mhm.
jumped in before Indy.
So
um
we're gonna do. Go ahead, Indy, and then we're gonna do you, Bree. Okay, let them go first. Nobody, let them
Mhm.
go. Go ahead.
I just want to say that from Miss Taken's, what you said about what you do with your kids, I am the statistic of that actually being fact, like working. My mom was a teen mom, had me at 16. And from a very early age when my body started to make changes and stuff like that, my mom kept a very embedded, like uncomfortable almost, like conversations about birth control, sex, condoms, the consequences of sex, STDs. I knew that even if I felt uncomfortable, I could still go to my mother and tell her. I came to my mom when I became sexually active. I was terrified out of my mind. And I feel like having that growing up is why I made the choices that I made and had the standards that I had, and why things went so successfully for me as far as like sticking to like, okay, this is it. This is what we're going to do. I know I know for a fact, these are the consequences of unprotected sex, not being on birth control, ruling with emotion over logic. And I had that from a young age. So I know that like, even though it's uncomfortable, I think that is really beautiful advice to give to parents, people that are raising the village, because it all starts in there.
Mhm.
Okay, Bree.
Right. Yeah, I would definitely agree. And I was agreeing with Lady T as far as like, when you think you are in love, because as I stated, I did give birth last year, and it was, well, I'm 24, so I'm mid, I'm very young. I did give birth with my high school sweetheart, and we had been dating since I was like 11, 12. And it probably stopped around my freshman year my freshman year of college. So it was just like I was head over heels, that was my first everything. So, what I thought I knew, about that person, yeah, I could see myself with that person, marriage and things of that nature. And it just it was the total opposite. I doubled back to something, after college, moved back home, doubled back to something that I probably should have left alone. But it was, as something that I thought that I wanted and that I went back to. And my today's self definitely would have moved differently, would have moved differently then. It's just like you say, I tolerated some things back then that I probably wouldn't now tolerate now, as I just continue to learn and continue to grow and listen to like other women who have gone through the same thing and things of that nature.